What's going on, everybody? My name is Sinister Skater. Welcome back to the channel. I've been taking notes on things that I've learned over the past week playing Modern Warfare that I thought every player should be aware of, ranging from new mechanics and features to general tips to improve. I have 15 helpful tips that should help you get better at Modern Warfare. Now, the inexperienced player will probably benefit the most from the following, but there are a ton of new mechanics to learn in the game thanks to the new engine that there's probably a tip or two in here that veteran Call of Duty players can benefit from as well. Don't forget to hit that like button if you do learn something new, and subscribe for future Modern Warfare tips and tricks, because I do plan on doing similar videos to this as time goes on. Let's get started with tip number 1, which is to experiment with mounting settings, because mounting in this game is so OP, at least in the current iteration at launch. I'm going to throw in a couple clips for example. You should be trying to mount on something every chance you get. It's that good. I try to mount every corner I turn, peek every box I can, set up for long range fights by mounting. Mounting literally makes your weapon have no recoil. Even the most bouncy weapons become super easy to use. You can full on spray an SMG across the map while mounting and hit every shot and kill someone. The other benefit to mounting is your character shows a fraction of themselves compared to standing out in the open, which makes it harder for the enemy to hit you. It's so OP, that's why I wanted to put this at the beginning of the video. Now, there's a few different settings that you can use to mount. There's auto mount while aim down sight, which I don't recommend you use. I like to use double tap aim down sight button to mount because it feels more fluid to me with a standard controller, as opposed to the last option, which is pressing the melee button while you're aim down sight to mount. Melee aim down sight I find disruptive because I have to take my hand off my thumbstick to actually hit the melee button with the tactical settings, but that may be the option for you if you have a SCUF or an Elite controller. Find the right setting for you and start mounting because it's amazing in this game. Tip number 2, if you have more than one kill streak available, you can actually select which one to use by holding down right on the D-pad and then using the right thumbstick to select the desired kill streak on the Killstreak Selection wheel. Tip number 3 is in a similar vein. You can access sprays and emotes in-game by holding up on the D-pad and then using that right thumbstick to choose from 8 different slots that you can load up with either gestures or emotes. The next 3 tips have to do with the minimap and compass. First up, the enemy fire does not show on the minimap itself. The only time you will see enemies on the minimap is if there is a UAV, a personal radar, or an advanced UAV active. However, enemy fire as well as your fire does show up on the compass, which is located at the top of the screen. The compass will signify which direction the fire is coming from with a fixed red dot that will move as you rotate. And lastly, the minimap will tell you an enemy's vertical location in relation to where you are. This has been the case with the last couple Call of Duty games. If the dot is a normal dot on the minimap, that means the enemy is on the same level as you. If the dot has an arrow above it, that means the enemy is located above you. And if the dot has an arrow below it, that means that the enemy is below you. So use that data to your advantage. Tip number 7, you can improve your aim by picking up a pair of control freaks. Shameless plug. Sorry, not sorry. Control freaks are attachments for your controller that help with your aim. I've always recommended them, and they really do help with your aim. I'm not just saying this just because. If you are interested in learning more about them, I've done a whole video going over everything that you would need to know. I'll have that linked in the cards and in the description right now. And if you do decide to pick up a pair, use code SYNSKATER, SYNSK8R, to save 10% off any order you place. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The next couple tips are more focused on some new mechanics that are in Modern Warfare. Executions, also known as finishing moves, can be performed in this game. The way you execute executions is by running directly behind an enemy and holding down the melee button. Your soldier will lunge forward and then cut to an in-game animation and perform that execution. Do be aware that enemies can still kill you while you are executing, and teammates can steal the kill on the person that you're trying to execute. Tip number 9, you can shoot while using your tactical grenade in Modern Warfare. If you hold down the tactical button, you'll hold it out while you're getting ready to throw it, and you can actually just press the right trigger and hit fire spray people down. This does not work with lethals, however, because you use 2 hands to whip out your lethal, but whenever you're in a tight situation or you get caught with your tactical out, just hold down that fire button and there's a chance that you can actually win a gunfight. Tip number 10, you ever notice people running faster than you and wonder how the hell that is happening? Well, there is a new mechanic called the tactical sprint in Modern Warfare. You can do this by double tapping the sprint button, and you will then raise your gun and move at a faster pace than the standard sprint for a short amount of time. Be careful when you are executing the tactical sprint because it takes much longer to fire your weapon from a tactical sprint and you don't want to be caught off guard. So use that sparingly and strategically. Another new mechanic that isn't seen in many FPS games in general is that you can now reload while aiming down sight in Modern Warfare. Simply just press the reload button or say aim down sight when you run out of ammo, and you can keep your sights on a target and let some shots off as soon as that reload is done. Tip number 11 and 12 both have to do with loadouts. There is an option to copy an enemy's loadout in this game. When you get killed and you watch the kill cam, you'll notice on the bottom left-hand corner on the screen, there's a prompt that will let you copy a loadout from that person that just killed you. It's Y on Xbox, and once you press Y, you will spawn into the next life with that exact same loadout that the person was using. Same weapon, attachments, perks. I'm pretty sure it's everything except your field upgrade and your kill streaks. This even works if you're a new player and want to try out some of the new weapons that you haven't unlocked yet because you're not a high enough level, which is actually a pretty cool feature. Tip 12, which I'm pretty sure most people should know this, but just in case, you can edit your classes while in a game. If you press pause, there's a loadout button, and you can toggle to the right of any of that loadout and press edit, and you can make any changes you want to your class. I think you can do every change that you can do in your standard create a class menu in a lobby, other than putting on camos and charms and everything like that. But you can put on different weapons, different attachments, different perks, the whole shebang, which is really, really helpful. Tip number 14, I think I said tip 11 twice, but we're on 14. There's been 14 so far. This is to turn off motion blur in game. Now, usually I say play with whatever you want, but motion blur in Modern Warfare is really, really absurd. So there's 2 different motion blur settings in the menus. There's weapon motion blur, which makes your weapon just have the blur, and then world motion blur, which will make everything except your weapon have motion blur. I'd recommend at least taking the world motion blur off. The weapon can be usable. I'd still turn both of them off. The motion blur in this game is just way too much. It's kind of nauseating. It makes it much harder to see people and see what's going on in the game rather than having it off. It even seems like there's motion blur still in the game even when you turn it all the way off. Similar to motion blur, there is a film grain setting which you can have on or off. This doesn't make as much of a difference as motion blur does, but it will add, some pixelation to your screen if you have it all the way on, which would make it harder to see enemies. I have mine, I think, at 0.25, so it's just a little bit. But maybe you do like it, maybe you don't want to be competitive. But if you want to have as much advantage as possible, I'd recommend turning all that stuff off. And last but not least, tip number 15 is sound in this game is really, 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 really important. More so than past Call of Duties, I'm actually myself considering getting a high quality headset for this game because one, at least as of right now, footsteps are really loud and are a great source for game information since the minimap and compass are kind of restructured. But the main part of this tip I wanted to let you know is that players make callouts in this game. They'll say contact if an enemy has a sight on you, if you have sight on an enemy.
Enemy spotted.
Enemy cave entrance.
They'll make callouts from across the map, just over the radio comms from your teammates.
Enemy at the workshop.
These callouts can be informative, but also can give away your position because the enemy team can hear every single callout that you make. So you can be, sneaking up on someone, and then he'll make a callout, and then the enemy can turn around and kill you. So be aware of that. I'm actually hoping this is something they change in the near future, so maybe it won't be an issue. But again, sound is important. Get a headset. Be aware of those callouts. And that wraps up my 15 tips for Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. If you have any other tips that you think would be useful, let us all know down below in the comments, and maybe it'll get featured in the next tips video. But that's going to be it for this one. Hit that like button, get subscribed, turn on that bell notification. Links down below in the description for 10% off Control Freaks, as well as cool indie game apparel. You also find an Amazon associate link down there if you want to shop through that link and help support my channel that way. But again, thanks for watching, guys. My name is Killstreak Selection, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.